The woman collapsed at his feet just as the hospital lights flickered on behind him. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely louder than the rain soaking the pavement. "Can you take me to a hospital?" Armin froze. His son's small hand tightened around his finger, warm and trusting, while the night pressed cold against his back. He had promised Noah pancakes for dinner, a silly promise to make up for the late hour and the missed school play. He had promised himself no detours, no complications, no more pain. Yet there she was, barefoot, shaking, her coat torn at the sleeve, eyes wide with a fear that wasn't dramatic but exhausted. The kind of fear that comes when hope has been stretched too thin. "I don't have money," she added quickly, as if that explained everything. "I won't cause trouble. I think something is wrong." Armin looked down at her trembling hands, then at the street, empty, uncaring. He exhaled slowly, the way he'd learned to do when panic threatened to take control. "Okay," he said at last, voice steady even as his heart raced. "Let's get you somewhere warm." She didn't know it yet, but she had just asked one of the top emergency surgeons in the country for help. Armin hadn't always been a man people trusted with their lives. Once, he'd been a scared boy watching his mother die in a hallway because no one took her pain seriously. Later, he'd become a medical prodigy, praised for his calm hands and faster-than-average decisions. Then he'd become a husband. And then, in a single afternoon, a widower with a newborn son and a grief so heavy it made breathing feel optional. He had stepped away from the spotlight years ago, away from conferences, awards, and headlines. He'd taken a quieter position, fewer hours, no night shifts. To the world, he was just another tired single dad with a second-hand car and dark circles under his eyes. To Noah, he was everything. "Daddy?" Noah asked softly, peering at the woman from beneath his hood. "Is she sick?" "Yes," Armin said, opening the back door of the car and laying his jacket across the seat. "But we're going to help her." The woman's name was Layla. She said it between shallow breaths, as if speaking cost her something. She smelled of rain and antiseptic soap, the kind used in public restrooms. Her hands were bruised. Her eyes kept darting toward the street, like she expected someone to follow. As Armin drove, he asked gentle questions, nothing invasive, nothing alarming. Pain location. Duration. Symptoms. Layla hesitated, then pressed her palm to her abdomen. "It started weeks ago. I thought it would go away. I didn't want to bother anyone." "Any dizziness?" he asked. She nodded. "And sometimes I can't feel my fingers." Noah listened quietly, clutching his stuffed bear. When Layla winced at a sharp turn, Noah leaned forward and offered the bear without a word. She stared at it for a moment, then tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her face. "I don't usually cry." "That's okay," Armin replied. "You're safe right now." They arrived at the emergency department where Armin used to command entire trauma teams with a look. Tonight, he parked like any other visitor and guided Layla inside. The receptionist barely glanced up. "Insurance?" she asked. Layla's shoulders slumped. I'll take responsibility," Armin said calmly. "She needs immediate evaluation." The receptionist sighed, already reaching for a clipboard. "We'll see what we can do." Armin didn't raise his voice. He didn't name drop. He simply sat beside Layla, monitoring her breathing, counting heartbeats the way he'd done 1,000 times before. When her pulse spiked and she doubled over in pain, he stood. "She needs imaging now," he said, his tone quiet but absolute. A nurse looked up, startled by something she couldn't quite place. "Sir, please sit, she's hypotensive. Her pupils are uneven. If you wait, you'll regret it." The room stilled. Another doctor entered, older, curious. He looked at Armin more closely, then frowned. Armin Hale, he asked. Armin met his gaze. Yes. The doctor's eyes widened. Why didn't you say so? Because it shouldn't matter, Armin replied. She matters. The hallway exploded into motion. Tests were ordered. Scans revealed what Armin had feared, a slow internal bleed caused by an untreated condition that had worsened under stress and neglect. Layla was rushed into surgery. Hours passed. Noah slept curled in a chair, bare tucked under his chin. Armin scrubbed in, muscle memory taking over as if he'd never left the operating room. His hands were steady. His heart was not. During surgery, Layla's blood pressure crashed. A junior resident panicked. Armin took over without raising his voice, guiding the team through each step. He thought of his wife, of how helpless he'd felt. He thought of his son sleeping down the hall. He refused to lose another life to indifference. When it was over, the room exhaled. Layla survived. She woke the next morning to sunlight and the sound of a child laughing. Noah sat at her bedside, drawing on a scrap of paper. You're awake, he said brightly. Daddy fixed you. Layla's throat tightened. He fixed me? Armin stepped forward. You did most of the work yourself. You asked for help. Tears slid silently down Layla's temples. I didn't think anyone would listen. I'm listening now, he said. In the days that followed, Layla told her story. She had been abandoned after fleeing an abusive home. Shelters were full. Jobs were scarce. Pain became normal. Being ignored became expected. Armin arranged follow-up care, legal aid, and a safe place to stay. Not as a famous doctor. As a man who understood what it meant to be left alone with fear. When Layla was discharged, she hugged Noah first. Then Armin, you saved my life, she said. He shook his head. You reminded me why I became who I am. That night, as Armin tucked Noah into bed, his son yawned and asked, Daddy, will we always help people? Armin smiled, brushing hair from Noah's forehead. As long as we can. Outside, the city moved on, busy, loud, often cruel. But somewhere between a broken plea and a quiet act of kindness, something had shifted. Because sometimes, the miracle isn't who answers your call for help. It's that you dared to make it at all.